northeastern Texas. Witnesses say the plane was in trouble. Its right engine was on fire, and the pilot was trying to land when the plane crashed.
Everything was on fire out there. The whole field was on fire, and the plane was just scooting down the pasture, and it was just catching everything on fire. It cut a power pole off right off the highway. And by the time I got back here, two of my employees that were on their way home had been on the highway, and he was trying to land on the highway and headed right straight toward them, and the kid just got scared and couldn't get off the road. So the pilot made another turn and tried to make a landing in that field out there, and from there just burned. By the time we got to the aircraft, the whole thing was just completely engulfed in flames.
Ricky Nelson and his band were on their way to Dallas to perform when the plane crashed.
I couldn't believe it. I remember, when Buddy Holly went down in '59. I remember when Sam Cooke got killed in '64, and you remember those kind of things if you're in our business. But this is the first one that, ever hit me like this.
The wreckage smoldered throughout the night. Now it will be up to federal investigators to determine exactly what caused the plane to go down. Witnesses say the pilot and co-pilot were thrown out of the plane when it crashed. They went running back to try to save Ricky Nelson and his band members. They could not. Tony Clark, CNN, DeKalb, Texas.
Ricky Nelson came to represent the ideal teenager of the 1950s, when America watched him grow up on the adventures of Ozzie and Harriet.
Would you like to see me tap dance?
Just don't pay any attention to him.
I think he's cute.
He's not.
I am too.
Ricky and his brother David first appeared with their parents, Ozzie and Harriet Nelson, on radio in 1949. Then moved to television 3 years later with a show that was to be at the top of the ratings for more than a decade.
They were really taken from real-life experiences, the early ones especially. My dad wrote most of the shows, and he used to do that, so I enjoy watching those things because it kind of reminds me of where I was then. It's like watching home movies.
Ricky Nelson's singing career began on the show when he convinced his father to let him perform in order to impress his girl.
That song was a smash, and Nelson went on to record a dozen top 10 singles.
Of 21, he'd sold 35 million records. But when he wanted to move on, change his style, his audience resisted. And in 1969, he was literally booed off the stage when he tried to sing his newer material. Nelson wrote a song about this humiliating experience, which became his first hit in years.
The best things that have happened for me are things like songs that are written that are the closest to being myself.
In his mid-40s, Nelson had returned to his original style, performing the old standards at some 200 concerts a year. And in the places where he traveled, everywhere there were the fans whose lives paralleled his own.
They feel like they know you, which is a good feeling.
Ricky Nelson was 45.
Also killed in the crash was Nelson's fiancée, 29-year-old Helen Blair. Nelson's father, Ozzie, died in 1975. Funeral arrangements are pending.